My opinion of landscape conservation is looking at conservation of our natural resources from a larger viewpoint, more than just a tribe or a state single source issue.
As fisheries biologists, we're pretty familiar with certain kinds of tasks to help the aquatic environment. There's a growing amount of issues that require us to do things for which we were not trained as fisheries biologists.
What we will have is an idea of the severity of human impacts on each segment of stream. And then we have an assumption that the severity of those impacts also tells us just how degraded a particular population might be. That information can be used by anyone. We want it to be available to federal agencies, state folks, right down to local watershed districts. In this decision support tool is not just fish data, it's not just what the impacts are, but there's a lot of socioeconomic data. All the census data is then in there, so we know how to project population expansion. We know where we have impoverished counties, those sorts of things where if we want to try to do projects where we can also boost local economies, because we do know, given the recent fisheries economic report that was just released by the Fish and Wildlife Service, that fisheries habitat restoration is a huge boost to local economies.
For a number of years in the Great Lakes Basin, we've been focusing on fisheries restoration, but more recently, we're starting to pay a little bit more attention to restoring aquatic habitats within the basin to better support our fishery restoration effort. This tool that we're working on developing is really going to help us from a decision standpoint with respect to better understanding what the stressors are on the landscape that are affecting the aquatic habitats that fish and other aquatic species rely on. And we're hoping that we can then use this tool to prioritize where in the future we'll look to put our limited resources on the landscape, making sure we're doing the right things in the right places.
All those types of folks will be able to use the GIS-based decision support tool that we're developing to identify and target what types of habitat restoration they may want to do, where they may or may not want to, say, expand their city limits, those sorts of things with respect to how they might impact aquatic systems. So all of that will be available for them to be able to make those decisions.
We really get a sense of where the technology is right now. What can we do to select on-the-ground restoration projects? But first we have to know what are the real issues in the area, and so doing this science-based analysis really helps us to focus our efforts not only geographically but also on the threats that are most important to the biological responses.
The biggest thing about the tool is it's going to let us be able to prioritize, because the Ohio River Basin Fish Habitat Partnership is a really large area. Our partnership area is over 160,000 square miles. And so if you try and work everywhere, you're going to have very diffuse effort. You're not going to get a lot of focused results. And so what we need to be able to do is prioritize and be able to spend the limited funds that we have and be able to direct partners to key areas.
There are certain aspects of restoration and rehabilitation where you have to understand what factors contribute to anthropogenic damage or habitat loss in these streams, and whether or not you have the authorities or the tools to repair the streams. And so the downstream strategies modeling efforts are these sets of tools for us to help us zoom in, select, find these watersheds or catchments, what we need to do to repair them. My intent is to take the tool home, pull together our fisheries biologists and managers across Wisconsin's portion of the driftless area in a workshop framework to begin to really thinking ahead about master planning where we buy land, where we buy easements along our streams.
It's finding that balance of sustainability for our aquatic ecosystems while also meeting the needs of the human population as well. And so it's taking a science-driven effort to finding where we can find that balance.
It helps us visualize the landscape in which these aquatic systems are located and appreciate the various influences that we need to think about when we're trying to conserve them, protect them, enhance them.
One of the things I really see happening from the standpoint from a landscape conservation cooperative is the collaboration that's taken place, the communication amongst partners that normally wouldn't have worked together We're seeing folks that are working on a terrestrial issue, working with folks with aquatic issues, and making those linkages across those habitats that have systematic effects on populations.